Metro Exodus is the train ride you have to hop on. Here's why. Starting off with the story, I just want to say that it is, in my opinion, the best story inside of the Metro series, especially when it comes to the characters. If you look at the two previous games, which I played recently before playing Metro Exodus, I didn't really have too much connections with those characters inside of those two games. The reason for that is because to me it kind of felt a little bit rushed. You went from one station to the other and you constantly saw people come and go, and I do felt, of course, that, Last Light was a bit better for that in terms of story. However, I did feel in Exodus, I really felt that the characters meant there and all had their place, and they really felt like you were this group of people on that train, heading out of Moscow and going on the objective that is at hand. I won't spoil the plot for you, I just want to say that it is a very interesting story. The connection that's going on between the characters, and you can really see that there is this need of survival, there's this need of, working together, getting the materials that you need, obviously, for the whole crafting thing, which is obviously my meant transition into that, because there's a whole crafting system to it which is a lot deeper than you had in the previous two Metro games. In the previous two Metro games, what you had these bullets that you would get, and with it you could go to weaponsmiths, and those weaponsmiths you could get attachments and new weapons and stuff like that. There weren't a whole lot of weapons inside of the previous two Metro games, and there's a lot more weapons inside of this one too. And of course you can turn your revolver into a sniper once again like you could in the previous Metro games, but that's not really all there is to it, honestly, because there's a variety of different weapons around as well. Especially some of the later weapons that you do get are especially interesting, and you can do all sorts of crazy things to them. There's a whole host of stocks and all sorts of barrels and stuff that you can attach to it, and the best part of that, the way to find those is by simply exploring the world. As you kill enemies, they will drop their weapon, and you can decide to do two things. Either you can decide to pick that weapon up, or you can completely strip it down and take all the attachments from that weapon and take it with you. Once you've done that, you can immediately attach them to your weapon through your backpack that you carry with you at all times, and that way you can just on the go improve your weapons as you're playing the game. If you want to, however, keep your weapons tidy and stuff like that, you're going to need to clean them. In order to do that, you have to be in your train, and that's where you can also switch out weapons that you might have found out of the world, or you might have dropped a weapon because you saw that was something that was a little bit more interesting to use, or was a bit more situational as you were playing the game. So the customization for weapons and the amount of weapons, there's definitely a lot of room for every certain playstyle. Some people might like to play a little bit more aggressive, others might like to lean back a little bit more. Every playstyle, there's something there, but Metro at its core for this gameplay is not going to be your Twitch shooter. It's something that you're probably going to have to get used to at first, especially if you're someone that plays a lot of the more faster paced kind of shooters. Metro definitely is one of those games where you have to think before you aim. You have to think, okay, do I want to take this move? Because wrong move, and there could be a lot of enemies coming your way. Now if you're playing on normal, it shouldn't be too much of a hassle, but especially with the later difficulty for the Ranger Hardcore, where also there's a trophy for those trophy hunters out there, I've heard that can get particularly difficult. So obviously, like with the previous Metro games, you have two different endings, a good and a bad one. I've personally got the good ending, which I was very happy about. It was a very solid ending, and it very much fit inside of the story, and it all came together and all made sense. If this is indeed the very last Metro game, I want to give a huge applause to the developers, because they did close off the trilogy very well. The bad ending is very punishing, but it's also a good ending, so it's definitely in both cases worthwhile to replay the game, or if you were like me and you wanted to see what the other ending is, obviously you can also look it up on YouTube. But it's not too difficult to get the good ending. Personally, I was able to just kill people here and there. What I was told, however, the way to really kill people is by always making sure that if you're not being attacked by them, to always knock them out, and if you are being shot by them, then you can just fire back, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue. That's the way how I did it. If there's any certain ways how you should be doing it, then obviously, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Now, touching on the world a little bit, inside of the world of Metro Exodus, there is a whole variety of things you can do. It's a little bit of a open world game in a way, because you go through all kinds of different chapters, and inside of those chapters you get into different open worlds, like for example in the desert, which is not really a spoiler because that's been well documented inside of trailers and stuff like that. What you can do, you can like get out of your train and do certain side missions as well. Around the world, of course, you can also find a host of materials. These materials you can use to craft medkits, and also of course filters for your gas mask whenever the radiation gets a little bit too much. And of course you can also use chemicals to clean your weapons so they don't jam as quickly, which is obviously something you want to keep an eye on. And overall, materials aren't too difficult to come by, at least on normal difficulty. And I really have to say that it does encourage you to have a look around, loot bodies, look for certain areas, look for certain things, so you can always have your medkits at the ready, because even on normal, the game can be a little bit punishing at times, because you can die pretty quickly if you're not too careful what you're doing. And before you start asking like, oh no, materials, it's gonna be all sorts of messed up and stuff like that, actually it's not. As long as you're keeping an eye on what exactly is going on in the world, and you try to pay attention to stuff that you can loot, and loot bodies, and always making sure you strip down the weapons. That way you can always have enough materials, and it really does make you feel like, hey, I'm actually part of this world. I'm really trying to go for survival. And personally, I never really had too much issue with not having enough materials for medkits and stuff like that. And whenever I didn't, I realized that I should have paid more attention to my surrounding areas. And it in a way kind of punishes you for not really exploring the world. And in a way that also encourages you to do so, because it is a very good looking world. And especially if you're someone like me who I'm fortunate enough to play on a 4K monitor, to play on the PS4 Pro. The game is not in 4K, but that doesn't really matter, because the first time I jumped in to this world, my reaction was literally this. Damn, dude, this game. Foo-wee! Foo-wee! I mean, having played the other. Oh my. Because having played the previous two Metro games in obviously its remastered form on PS4, the lighting and all the effects and the gun sounds, everything just sounds and feels very nice, and it just all makes sense. It's a very pretty game to look at, especially in like more the swampy areas, and like and especially at night as well with the reflections. And it's just a very pretty game, and it does make me wonder how good is this game going to look like on the ultra setting on PC, because that definitely must look very ridiculous. And hand in hand with that world creation and with all that stuff, there's one thing that I especially love about Metro Exodus, and that is the vibe of the game, especially in that one chapter where people who have beaten the game and have gone past that chapter know exactly which one I mean. This is by far like just it was both creepy, but both also like, wow, this is super cool. I'll spare you the details, but it's a very solid chapter where you just like, you're constantly on the edge of your seat, and it was really well done. But without trying to spoil too much, like as you progress more and more through the game, stuff obviously gets a little bit more and more mysterious and a little bit more creepy. And it really just intensifies the experience. I'm obviously not trying to spoil anything here, because I personally like to keep this stuff spoiler free. But trust me when I say it, the vibe of this game is even better than the previous two games. and it's very, very much worth a play. So if you never played a Metro game before, I would advise you to definitely give this one a play if you like what you're seeing in the terms of gameplay and stuff like that. It's not one of those games where you're going to like, you know, zoof through in like a couple of hours and just, okay, I'm done with this. It's really a game where you have to be a bit more patient with it, a bit more of a slower pace, like really just immerse yourself within this world. It's a very immersive kind of game, not really something that, you know, like a Call of Duty where there's going to be an explosive every 3 seconds. Like, it's a more down-to-earth experience that I personally feel should definitely be played by someone who likes a good story and likes to have a good vibe inside of a game. So with that said, let me know what you think about Metro Exodus if you have played it, and obviously please do try to keep it spoiler free. It'd be interesting to hear what everyone thinks about the game as well. That was it for my review. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all later.